Good day and welcome, America and beyond. Tom Donahue for Tom Donahue Reports. Patriotism in action, putting America first, New World Order dead last, a proud protectionist, nationalist, and someone that believes in truth and nothing but the truth. I simply seek truth. I'm a purveyor of truth, or a conveyor of truth, and I certainly purport any and all things that are truthful, and let the chips fall where they may. So again, I'm a seeker of the truth, a teller of the truth, and traffic only in the truth. So glad you can be with us. And this is a few days prior to Hallows Eve, Halloween, whatever. To me, it's Devil's Day. It's the Viper's Pit. It is a dark, dreary, they say, oh, spooky, scary. Yeah, okay. Well, you look into the roots. I don't have time for it right now. I've covered it before, and I'm sure others will cover it. But again, they say, well, hey, it's like Dawn of the Dead, Day of the Dead, zombies. Hey, I like a good sci-fi or scary flick from time to time. But I'm not going to celebrate it as a holiday. I'm not going to embrace it. It's one thing that many of these holidays are man-made, some of them in defiance of what our Heavenly Father, the Grand Creator, would want. But it's another when you're deifying, or that you're glorifying, or you're reveling in a celebratory way demons, devils, and those of the dark side. Okay? You say, well, it's candy, it's playtime, it's fun, it's make-believe, it's stress-up. Yeah, okay. Believe what you want. Okay, on to other matters. What I focused on in the last report was the Vatican's global authority request. Now, you can go back to the last report, and I hope that you will if you haven't taken the time. And I'm titling these now because there's been a few of you that have requested that, hey, it helps us find things, it gives us an idea what you talked about. And sometimes, actually more than sometimes, I have to go back over and say, what did I actually cover? I know a few of the points in my head, and I go, oh, that's right. And about 15 minutes in, I talked about, so I try to give you the highlights. Many times, the break points and the takeaways, or the breakdown maybe would be a better way of putting it. And again, in all the reports, there's always something to take away. There's always pearls of wisdom. And the reason I say that, and I try to say that as humbly as possible, unlike some broadcasters, they think they're doesn't smell, and they think that they've made little or no mistakes, and they think that they should be revered, and they think that they are actually above the fray. I mean, they actually think that they're part of an upper crust or an elite because they're part of entertainment, because people listen to them. Well, so many people turn them off too. But there's one thing to be said about a level of confidence as opposed to cockiness. Now, you got to have a little swagger, and I've said that before on the air. But the reason I have a certain level of confidence is I have 30 years experience in the Freedom, Patriot, Constitutional Movement. Matter of fact, you can even go back a little further, because when I was a Rutgers freshman, sophomore, I was reading books in poli-sci and sociology, even communications, that dealt with, I would have to say, social and economic inequality, but more importantly, that there was a power elite. And that there was, not that they were necessarily chosen, they just thought they were the wise men. That's the power elite. And if you haven't ever read or looked at The Power Elite by C. Wright Mills, I'd highly recommend it. That was my starter. And I've given my story, and I've told you, and I'm going to put it in a report. Sometime I'm just going to focus on, I have so many subjects I want to focus on, so many areas of specialization that and I'm going to do it. I promise you I will, regardless of responsibilities or the fact, even if, let's say in the next few months I'm back on the air live, with stations or a syndicator. I still want to do these reports separate or in addition to what I may do in a live broadcast, because this gives me an opportunity totally commercial free. So here I have free reign, free spirit, free mind, and no encumbrances. I mean, there is no break sets. And so the only limitation is when I stop the recording. That's pretty cool. That really frees me up. So let me just say this, that when it relates to my experience, 30 years in the movement, the truth, freedom, patriot, constitutional, liberty movement, I have a certain amount of confidence because, I've done so many interviews and I've done so much research and I've experienced so much that's why when I say things, as opposed to many, not all, it separates me, kind of the man from the boys, okay? The leader of the pack, one of the original pioneers of Patriot Talk Radio. Some of you don't know it, but I'll refresh your memory briefly, because this is not the time nor the place for me to elaborate, because I have other things I want to get to. But I preceded the Bullhorn Bully in Austin, Texas. Those of you that are unaware of that, my radio career originated in 1990. But I had made guest appearances on other programs, radio and television and print. And I was in the movement for 6-7 years prior. No, actually, let me take that back. That would have gone back 8 years. That's right. Because I actually officially became part of the movement in 1981. Okay? And so that's why there's 30 years. Now, some of you might look at my pictures and go, 30 years? Wait a minute, you're yeah, I know, I'm past a half a century. But again, it's all about, keeping stress levels as manageable or as low as possible, keeping a positive perspective, having yourself, set straight or set right with your spirit, with your intellect, with your physicality, or let's just say that your biochemistry, your diet, having a certain amount of exercise, and keeping yourself in movement. All these things matter. So anyway, yeah. So I preceded him. I don't know exactly when Bill Cooper started. I know he was on shortwave. I was already on many stations and syndicated, and then I also joined WWCR in addition to my syndication through mainstream radio. Although my program was America's Town Farm, I still used the motto "Patriotism in Action." We were still putting, matter of fact, my organization. Let's say back then you had written a check for an audio cassette or a book that maybe we were promoting from Eustace Mullins or Ralph Epperson, etc. You would have made the check out to America First. That's right. That was my organization, and and I wasn't the only one that used that term. Of course, Pat Buchanan was one of those political pioneers that used the term, and yeah, so it was an exciting time. But these guys that are like, came later to the banquet, the Patriot banquet or buffet, and they want to state claim that they're the originators and all. Yeah, fine, whatever. So yes, I was out of the game, forced exile, made a comeback. Many of you know that. So I want to get back to this 1% versus the 99%. Now we do know that the 1% control more than 90% of the wealth. The 99% of the population can't even compete. Now, I want to make my point abundantly clear. I do not object to anyone that has inherited their money. I mean, what can you do? I mean, hey, some people are privileged that way, and that's the way it goes. You can't take it away from them, and nor would I even, consider something that silly and that profane in my. I just don't think that's. I'm more of a free enterprise kind of guy, but not free markets, free enterprise. without having fair trade, without protecting the national interest and the interest of the states and the individuals in terms of sovereignty and fair play. So anyway, back to the 1% versus the 99%. That 1% that have earned it, that actually have produced something, that are productive, that it wasn't something that was gained through patronage or wasn't gained through some kind of partisan or political chicanery. As long as someone has done it honestly and played by the rules and earned it and produced something of value, by golly gee, no problem. But monopolies and through special interest and through a rigged system, and favoritism, those kinds of things I object to. I have nothing against capitalism or the capitalist system. I'm against crony capitalism and monopolistic capitalism, and and these interlocking directorships of corporations, and these unholy alliances would be a good way of putting it. So anyway, so the Vatican, in the event that you didn't hear the last broadcast, the Vatican is pushing for, and matter of fact, I was really grateful that Drudge had this up on his site because I didn't see it at Newsmax or some of the other sites. And some people are afraid to use the term Vatican. Hey, if they've issued a report and the Pope and his cronies, and his posse, the Pope's posse, if you will, if they're saying that they're wanting to see the establishment of a global public authority along with a world central bank. I mean, they're calling for the establishment of a global public authority, which means a world government and a world, consolidated, centralized banking system. Okay, and so guess who wants to be the third part of that equation? Hey, you can do your biblical study. I'm not here to give you an end times report. I'm not here to scaremonger. I'm not here to make religious or spiritual or end time predictions. But I can tell you that just from my elementary study, I think many of you are probably fully aware of this, that the beast system is economic, political, and so-called religious. And so if they're calling for the political system and the economic system, guess what? What has the Vatican always tried to do? They've always tried to internationalize. They've always tried to become the religion. Okay, the theocracy. So this is, very interesting. And so I hope that you guys will look into this. Again, that 1%, it's now been determined by the Congressional Budget Office, the CBO, that the 1%ers, tripled their income, their wealth based on income in the last, I think it was in the last 3 decades, I believe. You can look at the dates. The bottom line is that the increase in wealth on average of the super rich that got richer was by 285%. Most Americans, it was a paltry sum, not anywhere near those kind of numbers. Matter of fact, I think the highest it was in the upper middle class and it was like 60%. But most families, most individuals, were well below that. So there you go. So we're now getting the statistical data on that. An interest I didn't read, but I heard through the grapevine. I guess through the cable news, that I guess an editorial either has or will be coming out this weekend from George Will, and I guess he'll discuss that on ABC this week or whatever. But George Will is one of those Republican, old, kind of the old guard, and the big tent Republican, and the international globalist neocon Republican, and people say, oh, he was so closely aligned with Reagan. Yeah, sure he was. Okay, whatever you want to believe. So if you want to believe that's his real hair, not a toupee, then hey, fine. But so anyway, I'm not a big fan. I mean, he's a brilliant writer, and he's highly intellectual. But what does that mean? You got to give credit where credit's due. But I guess the term he used, just like they use in people that are serial offenders, recidivist, as it relates to drugs and various other things in the criminal justice system, or the politricksters, the shysters, the lawyers. Um, anyway, Romney, I guess hey, I'm glad he's speaking out against Romney. I mean, more Republicans, whether they're centrist, middle of the road, anyone that has certain level of values, ethics, morals, common sense even, would say, wait a minute, this guy Romney, I have no idea what he really believes. I don't even think his wife knows. I mean, this guy will change his shirt, his uniform. I mean, if he could rip his face off and put a new face on each day, he'd do it. I mean, I've never seen anything like this. So they're finding that he's actually a perennial or serial flip flopper. I mean, he's one of the most repeat offenders. So really, Romney is not revered. Rather, he's reviled, even in the Republican Party. So, unlike Reagan, who was respected and eventually revered by most in the Republican Party, the conservative movement, Romney is like, they're thinking, okay, he can talk the game about creating jobs, or he's got the business experience, he's got the look, he's got a certain amount of public speaking and debate skills. But I still hold to the notion, well, more than the notion, but the prediction, quite frankly, that Romney will be the next president of the United States. Hey, I'm not saying it because I want it. I'm just simply saying that unless the economy dramatically improves, and I don't see any other Republican candidate that will have the longevity financially, politically. I think many of them they get their surges and then they get their plunges, sort of like the stock market. So I think it's highly doubtful that Romney will be dethroned. And I think the established Republicans are going to say it's the best we can do. Hey, they did it with McCain. They did it with Dole. What else is new? And they said, hey, and they went with the Bush Cheney regime. So they're not always going to go with the strongest candidate. And Michelle Bachmann, I mean, she's nearly been knocked out. There's some talk that she's getting some endorsements finally from the Tea Partiers, but it's not going to be enough. It's not going to be enough, and quite frankly, I'd be shocked if she could rebound, in a very big way. Now, oh, this was something else. I wish we could get inoculated from the Republicans and the Democrats, but flu shots. I mean, this came out on the national news, and this is the medical establishment saying this. This isn't alternative people. This isn't theory. This is factual. They're saying 59% is the the effectiveness of getting a flu shot. So, and this doesn't count the side effects. This doesn't account people that don't report that they have had issues or they still caught the flu. But anyway, just based on their controlled studies, they're showing that the flu shot is only 59% effective. Now, wait a minute. You're saying that more than 40% of the people that get flu shots experience no relief or no protection. and they're paying for it. That doesn't count what the percentages are that have an adverse reaction to the flu shot. So food for thought there. Okay. What else did I want to say here? Okay, I talked about that. Sometimes, like I say, I'll just jot a headline down. I'll just jot a few things down. I feel like the term, uh, the bankers got bailed out and we got sold out. And the other one is stop the looting and start the prosecuting. Now, I did see one of the Goldman Sachsers. There's finally someone has been indicted. And hey, it's good news. It's about time. But this is another story, and I'm going to pick up on that because we're not done going after the Goldman Sachsers, the banksters and gangsters. But there's a third party group that's considering Hillary as a presidential candidate. Now, this is a pretty interesting story, and matter of fact, it just broke on Friday, the 28th of October. It says a well-funded group called Americans Elect is planning to hold a national primary election on the internet with its aims of nominating a centrist third-party candidate for president in 2012. Americans Elect is a collection, so they say, self-described as Republicans, Democrats, and Independents who say they are disgusted by the polarization that has poisoned American politics, the Los Angeles Times reported. The group is collecting signatures to put itself on the ballot in every state and claims it has collected 1.6 million signatures in California. Among the figures frequently mentioned as possible Americans elect candidates are New York City's mayor, Mayor Bloomberg, former Louisiana Governor Buddy Roemer, former Democratic Senator Evan Bayh, and Starbucks CEO Howard Schultz. That's another interesting story, what Starbucks is doing and how they're trying to revitalize, the free enterprise for small businesses. But we'll get to that another time. The group would reportedly seek to draft Hillary Clinton. The candidate is unlikely to win the election, but could have a major impact on the outcome, the Times observes. The only two modern presidents who failed to win re-election in a second term, Jimmy Carter and George H.W. Bush, lost in elections that included relatively strong third-party candidates. Now, John Anderson ran in 1980 and Ross Perot in 1992. I think Anderson got somewhere between 6 and 8% of the vote. Perot, on his first go-around, got 19 point something, nearly 20%. So that was significant. But he was polling as high as nearing 40% before he dropped out. That's why I call him Pop Goes the Weasel. He's in, he's out, and many people took great, umbrage with that. They didn't like the fact anyone that claims to be independent, anybody that's seemingly fighting the establishment, I was supposed to support, and I wouldn't do it. Again, I liked Buchanan and his candidacy. I liked Bo Gritz. I liked Howard Phillips. I liked Ron Paul when he ran as Libertarian in '88. So I've supported and promoted many independent candidacies, and I plan to promote those candidacies in this go around. But I don't know who they're going to be, and I don't know how much ballot access is going to be. So that should be quite interesting. Now, another story I wanted to touch on, and I've exposed Clear Channel, Premier Radio Networks, and Bain Capital. Now, again, there is the Romney connection. Bain Capital, his company, loves breaking up companies, selling them off, and making a profit. Now, those of you that think that Rush Limbaugh, Sean Hannity, and Glenn Beck, who are employees, not independent contractors, but employees, and are paid by Bain Capital, Clear Channel, Premier Radio Networks, that they are so profitable If they deserve all that money they're getting. Really? Well, let me remind you, and you can research this yourself. You can go back in the time machine. But Premier Radio Network's Clear Channel had a well, let's just say a deficit, a major deficit and huge debt to the tune of more than $20 billion. You say, well, hey, that's not Rush's fault. It's not Glenn's fault. It's not the Jughead, the Hannitizer, the Hannibal's fault. So it's not the Pompassy from Palm Beach. It's not the clown, the crybaby, the goofball with the goggles. Nor is it the Jughead, the blockhead. Okay, so they're always saying, oh well, let the free market, sort things out. Let it sift through. Let that decide what the winners and losers are. Okay, well, how's Bain Capital still in existence? Or better put, Clear Channel Premier Radio Networks, the syndicators and the employers of the Three Stooges. How is it possible that they do not follow free market principles, and why haven't they been either been given a pay downgrade, or a pay cut, or maybe even a pink slip to bring in the budget, to cut their deficit, because they're running deficits in a very similar vein as the federal government. So this is the news that broke Friday, October 28th, 2011. Expect more national programming platforms, meaning, this is the actual, I'll just read it verbatim. Expect more national programming platform shows on Clear Channel stations. This was in all the, several of the radio publications this Friday. At the station level, sometimes not even being top 3 in your target demo was enough to save a job. Companies are looking for statistics-driven ways to control cost, and that leaves local managers pleading to save some of the strong local personalities whose contributions to programming and sales may not show up on an Excel spreadsheet. Back at Bain Capital in Boston, Massachusetts, one East Coast jock fired on Wednesday was on the bubble 2 years ago and was protected then by a market manager who was subsequently, let's see, okay, okay, so what they're saying here is that there's, and in the event you're unaware of this, well, then again, you may not, because you're not that closely, associated with the radio business. But there have been massive cuts, and Clear Channel has been going in there and chopping away at the local and the medium-sized markets, and some major markets, even Los Angeles, where they're firing. I mean, a lot. I mean, not because of dereliction of duty, not always because of a lack of ratings. It's because they need to cut. They're running too high a deficits, and they haven't done it on the syndication level. The reason being is that they've decided that, oh, we'll just plug those gaps with more syndicated programs. So remember, they went in and gobbled up all these stations, all the mom and poppers, and everyone thought that was going to be just fine. Well, now we're finding out that it would have been better off for those mom and pop stations, even with financial struggle, because now they're selling off stations. They're firing so many people that are dependent on those paychecks. And that's the way Clear Channel, Bain Capital, and Mitt Romney roll. Anyway, I want to thank you so much for joining us for this report. Many more to come. Make sure you check out TomDonahueReports.com or TomDonahue.podomatic.com. 24/7 stream of these programs are available. Just check us out on the home page right there at TomDonahueReports.com. Till we meet again, may God bless you. God bless our great country. It's time to forge forward, fight on, and it's always about liberty, freedom, and truth. And they will prevail if you show a little moxie, a little guts, a can of courage, okay? That's what we're asking for here. So again, check us out and also we do stream through TalkStream Live at very select times as well. Tom Donahue, TomDonahueReports.com.